In example 1, we have the salaries for 15 NFL players from the 2013-14 Super Bowl champs, the Seattle Seahawks. And those are listed here on the table on the right-hand side. We're going to answer some questions based on this data. I've already entered that in my list. I want you to do the same thing. So if you go to Statistics and then you go to Edit, you'll notice here that I've entered those values into List 1. Also, I've listed this in millions of dollars. So, for instance, Sidney Rice, I'm going to enter in as 9.7. Marshawn Lynch would be 8.5, and you could go down the list. As we continue down, we see this player, his salary is $880,000. And you'll notice that I've entered that in here as 0.88. Remember that we're using millions of dollars here. Please take the time to enter this data in. If you have any questions, please ask the teacher that is there with you. Pause the video and then begin when you're ready. If we look at part A, do you think the data is symmetric, skewed right, or skewed left? At first glance, it might be tough to tell here, but it does look like there's some outliers around this area. For instance, Sidney Rice here is making 9.7 or almost 10 million, and then we have lots of players that are making lower than $1 million. Only a few, well, only 2 actually approach kind of that figure, and there's only a couple here. So we might think that this data is skewed left. But I want to actually help you here and show you what this would look like in a couple different ways. So if you go back to your calculator, let's go to second y equals. That's your stat plot. We're going to hit enter for the first one. We're going to turn plot 1 on by hitting enter. The data, or the type of the graph, we're going to go with, let's go with a modified box plot to begin with. If you've entered your data in list 1, it should be set at list 1, but make sure that it does say list 1. Frequency, that doesn't matter for this, and your mark can be whatever you want. That's going to mark the outliers. When you've done all that, please hit zoom 9, and you can see what this box plot looks like. So this one looks like skewed to the right. Not sure if I mentioned that before correctly or not, but like the higher values here, these guys are over to the right, and there's relatively few of them. They're kind of outliers. So this one will be skewed right, and you can see that in the box plot. Let's take a look and see if we can change this into a histogram. So go back to second y equals, hit enter, and then what you can do is you can cursor down and go to a histogram, and just hit enter. We can again hit zoom 9, and you can pause the video if you want, make sure that everybody is caught up here. You can also see with the histogram that we've got a nice skew to the right hand side here. Most players are in between here, and there's just a few that are over here on the right hand side. So this is definitely skewed right. We want to skew towards that tail. So we could say here, skewed right. Explain, well, there's only a few pieces of data that are on the right hand side. Most is on the left hand side, and we could see that using the histogram or the box plot. Based on your answer to part A, what measures of center and spread would be appropriate to report? This is skewed data, so we want to use the median and the IQR. Remember, the center here is going to be the median, and the spread is the IQR. We want to calculate those measures that we reported in part B. We're going to ask the calculator to do that. So we can just exit out by hitting second mode, which is quit. And what we'll do now is we'll go to statistics, cursor 1 right to calculate. Number 1 is the one we want, one variable statistics. And we want to enter list 1. Your screen might look a little different than this based on the operating system you have. If you have something that has like a little list here and it says calculate at the bottom, just keep hitting enter until you get to that and make sure it says list 1 there. Remember, we don't want to list the mean. The mean for this is 2.468. That's a little above $2 million, but that's not a good representation of where the middle of this data is. So we want to go down to our 5-number summary here and see if we can get that information here. The median is 0.62. Notice that if you look at the X bar, which is the mean, it's higher or pulled in the direction of the skew compared to the median, which is 0.62. So let's list that here as 0.62, which means $620,000. That's a good measure of the center. The spread now, we're going to need Q3, so we're going to do IQR now, and that's Q3 minus Q1. Well, Q3 is 4.8, and then we can look and see that Q1 is 0.48. A little confusing there, the decimal actually does matter quite a bit here. So what we can do then is we can just do 4.8 minus 0.48, and that's 4.32. So the IQR for this one is 4.32, and again that's $4,320,000.